Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Hope you're ready for the next episode.
I guess I'll start by saying that I think there are good drugs and bad drugs, and it's time we started differentiating between the two.
There are lots of things in the world that can absolutely harm us that are totally legal. The two most obvious choices are tobacco and alcohol. Both of these substances are regulated but legal in most of the world.
If you look at the straight deaths from substances, a different type of picture starts to appear. The #1 killer in the country? It beat out AIDS, heroin, crack, cocaine, alcohol, car accidents, fire, and murder combined. Tobacco. It's interesting to know that tobacco receives government subsidies.
There's never been a single death attributed to marijuana. There's 400,000 deaths in America alone every year that are directly attributed to tobacco.
#2 on the list? Alcohol.
More than 1 in 6 adults in the United States is a binge drinker of alcohol.
A recent UC San Diego study found that alcohol appears to harm the teenage brain even more than, and I'm using clinical terminology here, getting potted up on weed.
The health-related costs associated with alcohol use far exceeded those for marijuana use. Health-related costs for alcohol consumers is 8 times greater than those for marijuana consumers.
Where does marijuana lie in this? What kind of staggering number do we find? Get ready for it. Here it comes.
There are no deaths from cannabis use. Anywhere. You can't find one.
Another one is that the tougher we get with regard to marijuana prosecution, the softer we get with the prosecution of everything else. And that is something that we simply have so many resources, and if we're spending them in prosecutions of marijuana, we are not spending them for prosecutions of rape, homicide, etc.
Since 1970, we've spent roughly $545 billion on an unsuccessful policy to curb drug use. Prohibition has not solved the drug problem. It has instead led to a dangerous black market run by cartels and criminals. It costs billions of dollars to imprison an ever larger population of drug users and sellers.
In the U.S., in 2011 alone, 1 individual was arrested every 42 seconds for marijuana use, sale, or possession. Imagine how much of our resources go toward that.
It's increased prison costs so high that we've had to defund public and post-secondary education. It has led to a loss of freedom and an increased militarization of our police force.
My concern is when you end up having very heavy criminal penalties for individual users.
Okay, there's no question that pot, like everything else, can have its downside.
Some will argue that the smoke is carcinogenic and causes lung cancer or respiratory disease. Others argue that regular use can affect the immune system.
Most people that do smoke pot, I watch their ambition being curtailed steadily, and they never reach their potential.
A no on pot because I believe it is addictive and it leads to more serious drugs.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Nothing.
You know, it does damage your lungs.
Especially since pot smokers tend to inhale more deeply and hold it longer.
But the question is, should that be a crime?
Well, with D.C. soon to start selling medical marijuana and Colorado and Washington State approving it for recreational use, the push to legalize pot is growing.
America's fears about marijuana, it seems, are going up in smoke.
I think it should definitely be legalized nationwide.
Blanket prohibition causes a lot more problems than it solves.
There are thousands of people in prisons in the state of California today for doing nothing but smoking marijuana.
There's a growing body of evidence that marijuana has use in many medical conditions to improve quality of life.
If weed were taxed and regulated, the government would make billions of dollars in new revenue. Drug legalization would yield tax revenue of $46.7 billion annually. So not only would we save tens of billions of dollars per year on enforcement and imprisonment, we would bring in billions of much-needed revenue for things that our country actually needs.
I don't have to buy from gangbangers shooting craps if it's legal.
Beneficial effects on pain control, appetite, mood, and management of other chronic symptoms. Our findings suggest that occasional use of marijuana for these or other purposes may not be associated with adverse consequences on pulmonary function. So let's review. Tobacco adversely impacts lung function and perfectly legal. Binge drinking of alcohol, common, dangerous, costly to society. Also totally legal. Marijuana, no impact on lung function, no impact on mortality, almost always illegal.
Like tobacco and alcohol, they should let people decide for themselves.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it. Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
We're old,
Young.
Straight.
gay. We're every race and nationality.
It's time for legalization. Legalization.
Yes.
We
Can.
We got a pound of Coke?
Try to show them a good time, not ruin their
Pound of marijuana?
best party ever.
Booyah!